Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to Secrets of the Sires, where we talk Sires. Look at me go. I'm knocking it out of the park right off the bat. We talk comics, movies, TV, music. We do this every Wednesday night, 8 p.m. We do it on talkingalternative.com. We do it on Periscope, which I got on the right-hand side of me. We do it on Facebook, which I got dead center ahead of me. I hope people enjoy the new studio setup in studio here. I think it's going to work pretty good. We are also, like I said, streaming on Facebook. You can go to facebook.com/Secrets of the Sire, and you can check out the live video, which I'm actually now sharing across the cosmos. We got a great show tonight. We actually almost didn't have a show. My wife decided that she'd had enough of me. That was it. She locked me out of the house. Now, we were home. I was out. I always leave the door, unlocked when I'm bike riding. Now everyone can go rob my house, which is good. I won't tell you where I live, but come back, and I'm riding back, and I'm like, I know it. I know she locked me out, and she did. And don't have the spare key with me at the moment, so I'm basically sitting outside my own house with about an hour to go to get into the studio and get myself situated. So. Maybe she's trying to tell me something about the show. Maybe that's what it comes down to. Maybe there's nothing. I want to welcome Jersey Jedi on the Periscope feed, Slick Mick DeRuler, who I think actually just dropped off because he can. There's only so much of me he can take. And Dan T. Lawson, who actually met me at New York Comic Con and picked up one of the Sire trade paperbacks. So Dan, thank you so much. I really appreciate the support. And we've got more support too. We've also got our Patreon people. Welcome again. Jersey Jedi is actually one of our executive producers. It's Brian Phillips. He gets Dan T. Lawson, loving the book. All right, awesome. Love hearing that as well. Basically we have our Patreon feed. If you go to michaeldolce.com, it'll take you right to the Patreon feed. And we've got our dedicated fans, Einar Peterson and Ashley Hakai. Our program director, Stephanie Dolce. Our executive producer, Steve Hovecki, who is joined by Brian Phillips as the co-executive producers. And our Uber fan, Christina Dolce. And we'd like to welcome our latest backer, which is my main man, Matt Beyer, who runs a professional organizing company. His stuff is amazing. I'm actually going to be on his TV show in November sometime. He does a TV show at Connecticut One, something like that. I don't know. But we're going to be organizing comics and collectibles. It's going to be very exciting. I'm telling you, it's killer. Can't beat it. And we also want to recognize John Hoff III, who backed us for a day and then realized he didn't have the money to back us anymore. So, he's still following me on Twitter, so I got to imagine that he wasn't offended. I wonder if he backed the show and then he actually listened to the show and he's like, oh, I don't really want to back this thing. If you want your name shouted on the interwebs, back me for a day and then pull out, and I'll still call you out. No. If you want your name shouted out, go to michaeldolce.com, check out our Patreon page. Quarter a show. That's all I'm asking for, really. $1 a month. I mean, you can't beat that. I'll give you a shout out on air. And, and at Espada Primera Stark just joined in as well. Saints Girl listening is, good. We miss Saints Girl. So as it turns out, one of my earliest, fans, was a Twitter user called Saints Girl 878. And we were on at Fridays at 12, and then as it turned out, Fridays at 11. Fridays at 12 is 21st Century Entrepreneur on talkingalternative.com, which you can check them out, Joan and JC. And she's coming in all the time. And then when we moved to Wednesdays at 8 p.m., she never came on the Periscope feed anymore. I was like, oh, it's too bad. I miss it. Turns out Dan T. Lawson is married to Saints Girl 878, and she's the one that got him into the show. So that's it's very good. So they keep it in the family, and they tune in almost every week. So appreciate that. And a shout out to Saints Girl 878 as well, too, for checking us out. Now, don't forget, this is a call-in show, 877-480-4120. And I got to be honest, this is a jam-packed show. We've got Rus Wooton of The Walking Dead. I mean, he actually works on The Walking Dead comic book. He's the letterer, so he actually gets Robert Kirkman's scripts months in advance before anybody gets them. So we're going to definitely talk about the most anticipated season premiere that's coming out this weekend, which is Walking Dead season 7. And I'm not going to get him fired. I'd like to keep his job. That's what I'm aiming at. But we're going to get a little bit of insight as much as we can, and then we're going to have him on again next week because this Sunday is obviously the Walking Dead season premiere. So we're going to have we're going to talk about it. We're going to talk about working behind the scenes. How does he keep a tight lip on the spoilers? Because he's, like I said, he gets these scripts 3-4 months in advance, so he knows who lives and dies. And then we're going to fast forward to next week, and we're going to get his reaction from who dies who gets beaten bloody to a pulp? Is it going to go the way the comic book went? Is it going to go a little bit different? I have my theory. Some folks have their theories, and they really analyze these trailers like crazy. But anyway, we're going to have him on. But first, all right, we're gonna talk about this superhero power list. Now, it's funny, I mean, we try to plot out our shows in advance as much as possible. I really do. Like, I have guests booked through November. I have some other guests that are on a waiting list that want to come on, because everyone wants to come on. When you have a show, everyone wants to come on, because, I mean, I pay for the lights to be on, but, whatever, they won't want to be on. But, no, I'm not knocking these people yet. No, but so this was going to be all Walking Dead, and it's like, this is great. And we're going to have, like I said, tons of Walking Dead talk, so hang tight. We'll definitely be doing that. But Entertainment Weekly, it's one of my favorite magazines. I love Entertainment Weekly. I'm a subscriber. I've been a subscriber for like 10 years. It's a great take on everything. It's a great take on, pop culture in general. I get some of my material from them, too. They come out with a superhero power index, okay? It's a superhero power list. And immediately upon reading it, and anybody who's a fan of the show, anybody who's listened to this show before, knows that I hate politicizing story. When it comes down to, I just did a podcast with Derek Becker, who we had on last week, and we talked about that. And he actually he's like, for a podcast that talks about a whole range of different things, you don't really focus on one thing. I said, yeah, but I do focus on one thing. It's all about story, right? Character. It all, whatever the movie, if it's a movie, if it's a TV show, if it's a comic book, doesn't matter what it is. It all comes down to story, right? And I don't want anything, that to me is like the purest thing you can do. So anytime people use it for an agenda, right? Like if they, we saw the new Iron Man over the summer, right? Who's now a black teenager, but now she's not actually. They're going back to Tony Stark already, Anytime it screams like, oh God, this is like they're taking Iron Man and they're making a political statement with it. They're making a PC statement with it. Entertainment Weekly is no different, though, right? I mean, look, and I get it. This list is meant to spur conversation, and they're doing it. I mean, immediately I reacted to the number one person on the list, and I'm like, come on, really? Like, it's the most popular super. So to get it out, they basically put Wonder Woman as number one, right? And the most power. Now they have a criteria, and I'll read you that criteria that they. Yeah, and Dan T. Lawson doing it for no other reason but that it's currently PC. I agree. That's exactly the point. Cultural impact, bankability, design, modern relevance, mythology, nemesis, originality, personality, powers. And this is what they did. So they basically gave it, at least they have a ranking system. It wasn't just totally subjective. Now, mind you, most of these things are subjective. But I guess going by these kind of things, cultural impact, I think that is something they're an expert at. They're an expert at cultural impact. They're an expert on relevancy, modern relevance. That's one of them. Bankability. I think that's another one where, okay, awesome. If it was just those three categories, I could see them picking Wonder Woman as number one because it fits that bill. But then you also kind of have things like originality. And, okay, again, I get it. Putting Superman at the top of this list, it's not really going to spur debate, or maybe it will, considering how bad his films were recently. I didn't expect any less from Entertainment Weekly to put Wonder Woman there. But originality. Okay, Superman was the very first superhero, yet he is not considered original. Maybe it's because everyone has kind of aped off of him or cloned off of him, but he is the most original superhero. Why? He was the first one. I mean, you don't get more original than that. If you're going with creativity, yeah, she's an Amazonian princess, Dan T. Lawson just chimed in, how do they rank the nemesis? Okay, that's another one, too. So they have originality for Wonder Woman 9.3 over a Batman 8.0. Again, that was the first time you ever had an anti-hero. Superman 8.0, Spider-Man 7.7, Iron Man 7.0, Captain America. So, she's like dwarfing them all in originality. I don't understand how do you even rank originality? Again, Superman's the very first hero. Batman's the first anti-hero. Spider-Man's the first hero that's just a teenager. These are all original concepts. Being an Amazonian princess is original. I don't see how it's any more original than anything else that was ever created. Do you know what I mean? Clearly, that's the one that put her over the top to be number one. So, hey, we need Wonder Woman to be number top. Great. Let's give her 9.3 in originality. Bankability. She's never had a successful comic book run. She's had, don't get me wrong, she's had bouts of success. Renee DeLiz is doing some Wonder Woman stuff right now. Her work is fantastic. Go check out the book. It's amazing. I would have been okay if they came out and said Black Panther be number one. Why? I mean, and again, we're going cultural impact. Black Panther, huge right now. No question about it. I mean, a huge cultural impact. That would be number one right there. Bankability. He was just part of the number one movie of the year, and he was a breakout star in the number one movie of the year. Far more than Wonder Woman. Okay, Wonder Woman was in Batman v Superman. She was the second best part of that movie. Ben Affleck's Bruce Wayne was the first part, I think. And I think that's pretty universally lauded. I mean, it definitely wasn't Jesse Eisenberg, and it definitely wasn't Doomsday, and it definitely wasn't anything else in that movie. But she was definitely up there. But the second best, because she really didn't shine. I mean, she was great and she was awesome, and I'm looking forward to her movie. But we don't know what her movie's really going to do. How bankable is it, you know? Dan T. Lawson says Wonder Woman was a one-scene character. Agreed. In a way, she kind of was. I mean, she had a couple scenes. She's cool. I mean, she's a very cool character, and I like her in the trailer in Justice League. But by no means did she have the same impact in Batman v Superman that Black Panther had in Civil War. Okay? Design, I mean, again, Black Panther versus... she's got a cool design. I'll give her that. In fact, the design, though, doesn't beat, like, Batman's and doesn't beat... You know, it's the same as Black Panther. So if we're comparing Wonder Woman and Black Panther, okay. Modern relevance. They don't give Black Panther a 10 here. Don't know why. Again, modern relevance. He's as relevant right now as you're going to get. And going back to bankability, his comic book actually sold 500,000 copies. 500,000 copies. Wonder Woman collectively, well, no, she has sold about 500,000 at this point, but, like, there's no way. Like, there's just no way. So clearly, and we have producer Rob K in with us, a spot of premiere Stark. Why are they all movie characters from the comics? Set up so many other options. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, there's no question. You have other guys here, too, and we'll talk about it in the next segment. I mean, personally, like I said, if Black Panther was number one, would it scream PC? At first, yes, but then on closer looking, I'd be like, no, actually, that makes total sense. This guy is on the verge. He's got his solo movie coming out. He was a breakout star. I could see that. The real number one, though, should be Iron Man. Okay, and we'll talk about why in the break coming up. We've got producer Rob K here, and he actually mentioned, Wonder Woman number one, because maybe Hillary's being president. Absolutely. But again, it's a forced number one. Look, again, I get it. These things are all subjective, I guess the biggest thing that I'm a little upset with this list about is because it made me sad for this reason, and we'll talk about it more when we come back. We're going to talk about the superhero power list, and then coming up later in the show, we got Rus Wooton from Walking Dead. But coming up next, this is the real reason I'm so sad about this list, and you'll never guess why.
You're listening to the Talking Alternative Network.
Hello, I'm JC.
I'm Joan. And welcome to 21st Century Entrepreneur.
We bring education,
insight,
knowledge,
awareness,
trouble,
craziness, and fun
for you, the entrepreneur who's looking to build your business
and your community. Listen every Friday from noon to 1 Eastern on talkradio.nyc. And you can tweet us at 21st CE Radio or Talk Alternative.
Talking Alternative Radio, 24 hours a day.
Welcome back, Secrets of the Sire. I want to remind everybody this is a call-in show live. We do get a lot of streamers on the Periscope feed at Michael_Dolce. We get Facebook.com/Secrets of the Sire. We're talking superhero power list, Entertainment Weekly. What did you think of the list? They have Wonder Woman number 1. I thought it screamed PC, as Dan T. Lawson so eloquently put that. To put her number 1 as the most powerful superhero, really, it's a travesty. It really is. Just by what they used to judge the list, too. Look, it's there to spur reaction, which it did, and now I'm trying to spur a reaction, so you guys call in. So it all makes sense as well. But the one thing that this list actually did for me was got me a little sad, okay? Because what it showed me was... Look, was I expecting anything less from... Look, Entertainment Weekly is extremely liberal. Every magazine... There's nothing wrong with that either, but look, every issue is going to have... it's going to spotlight a diverse character. It's going to have women on the cover. It's going to have minorities on the cover. No matter what, they're going to span the gamut of what a quote unquote liberal agenda is. So I'm not like surprised by it. But what makes me sad is Entertainment Weekly is now the closest thing we have to like a magazine about comics and pop culture. And that is a void that used to be filled by Wizard magazine, which I used to work for back in the day. And I got to catch up with a lot of Wizard folks this past weekend, or not this past weekend, 2 weeks ago at New York Comic Con. And it's just sad because, it's amazing. Dan T. Lawson, where do the common movie characters rank, e.g. Deadpool, Wolverine? Wolverine was 5 on the list. Deadpool was number 12. And I'll go through the list actually in a second, but I just want to speak real quick about Wizard magazine. If Wizard magazine was running this kind of list, Spider-Man would be number 1. And with good reason. They'd always pick Spider-Man. Spider-Man was their favorite character in the bullpen. So Spider-Man was always the number 1 guy on the list. Spider-Man is number 2 on this list. He would have been number 1, but his bankability, his movies were terrible recently, and they're still like big movies. He's got Marvel pushing it now. He's got Marvel creatively working on it. Spider-Man could be number 1. Iron Man, to me, is the true number 1. Because now he ended up 7th on the list. But at the end of the day, again, Wizard used to, who else is a powerful voice out there to talk about movies and comics right now? Like, no one. It's internet. Look, you've got Newsarama, you've got CBR, for comic books. You've got Ain't It Cool News for movies. You've got Up Rocks, and you've got, hello to @Downs1210 Downs. Oh God, these people with these long usernames. I'm talking live on a radio show, and it's live on air. But again, talking about comics and movies and TV, there's not really anything else out there now. Hollywood Reporter is pretty good. I do like certain things like that, but the void that Wizard magazine used to fill in terms of talking about pop culture. Our guest coming up next segment also used to work at Wizard. That's how I met him and how I knew him. So we'll talk about some good days at Wizard. But all right, so we talked about Wonder Woman was number 1, Spider-Man was number 2, Batman number 3, Superman number 4, Wolverine number 5, ahead of Iron Man. And this is what I thought was kind of funny about that too. Marvel has now gone out of their way to nullify Wolverine. There's a time in comics when Wolverine used to be in every single issue. They would cram him in every single team. He was in like 5 different super teams. He was in every single issue. They did a Wolverine Origins. This is like circa 15 years ago, 15 to 10 years ago. His movies, though, his solo movies, terrible. He was the star of Days of Future Past. Very good. Absolutely. And he was terrific at it. Or terrific in that movie. But do you like Mrs. Brown Boys, the movie? I've never actually seen Mrs. Brown Boys, the movie. No idea. But, so, you have people, you have Wolverine big in Days of Futures Past, but that's about it, though, when it comes to comics, when it comes to movies, when it comes to TV. And Marvel has now shunned him because they don't want Wolverine to, and Dan T. Lawson says they missed their shot with Age of Apocalypse. Yeah, I agree. But they didn't want Wolverine to be overexposed because they want the property back. They want all the X-Men property back. So to make him number 5, to be honest with you, on this superhero power index is a little strange, actually. If this is 10 years ago, Wolverine's number 1, right? But Iron Man, to me, has to be number 1 because he is the pulse that is keeping all the Marvel movies together and coherent, right? And Oh, the Mrs. Brown Boys movie. See, at Downs 1210 Downs was asking have I seen the Mrs. Brown Boy movie. No, I have not seen it. We'll get into Harry Potter one day. I've never actually read a Harry Potter book nor seen a Harry Potter movie. So, well, maybe that will be our next debate that we do. We had a show where we had people call in and actually convince me to watch one of their shows. Maybe someone can actually call in and convince me to watch Harry Potter. Nothing against it. I just have no overwhelming desire. So we'll find out. We'll find out at some point. But no, getting back to Iron Man, though, he's the pulse that actually keeps the entire Marvel universe clicking. He keeps all of the Marvel movies coherent. He has become... he's the coolest guy out there. Robert Downey Jr. does an amazing job, right? Robert Downey Jr. essentially makes that, makes Marvel movies, right? He's basically the first movie. He was the Coulson before there was a Coulson. Yeah, absolutely. There's, without a doubt, Iron Man is, to me, the pulse, and he's still going. He's going to be in Spider-Man next year. I know he doesn't have an Iron Man solo movie out, so maybe that's why you can knock him down a little bit off the pegs in terms of power index. But that's number 7, Captain America number 8, Hulk, then Black Panther number 9, then The Flash, then Buffy, which I thought was interesting considering I'm a huge Buffy fan. I'm a huge Joss Whedon fan. But why is she on the list right now? They had the Dark Horse comic. She's still relevant. Epic and classic. Yes, Espada Premier Stark says epic and classic. I agree with you. I think that's what it comes down to. I think this list should have been 3 things, right? If we're going to literally have a fanboy debate about who's the most powerful superhero, how is Superman and Wonder Woman any different? Can Wonder Woman, Saints Girl is ready for Tony to give Steve a beatdown. Well, yeah, well, that happened, The new Batman, the new Batman movies are just as bankable. The Ben Affleck movie is just as bankable. But again, we can debate powers, but that's not what this power index is. It's I think it really comes down to those 3 categories, which is cultural impact, bankability, and modern relevance. And I think that in general, I think this list just falls short. I don't think there's a definitive one person, though. We had, again, Deadpool came in number 12, Thor, Jean Grey, Storm, Daredevil, Green Lantern. See, then it gets into the more comic book-y territory, which, again, makes me sad. Why is there nothing that focuses on this specifically? I trust Entertainment Weekly for movies. I do. I trust their judgment on movies to see, TV shows. There's definitely things that, and no, we cannot talk about cars. This is, I love our Periscope commenters. Asked if we can talk about cars. No, we talk about comics, movies, TV. This is a live radio show. It's on talkingalternative.com. We do this every week. I actually didn't say that at the beginning of the segment, so it's my fault, not theirs. I miss something that can focus on the comics, the movies, the TV. That's exactly, yeah, I think he dropped off too, which is okay. And Entertainment Weekly is as close to what we have now. It's just, unfortunately, that's as close to what we have in terms of, relevance to all this stuff. All right. When we come back, we are going to be, hopefully, I don't know if he's called in yet, but we're going to hopefully have Rus Wooton from Walking Dead. He is one of the creators behind Walking Dead. He didn't create Walking Dead, but he does the letters, so he gets the Robert Kirkman scripts, and he gets it in advance. So we are expecting him to call in any minute now. So when we come back, we will be talking Walking Dead. I want to know what he does with the spoilers, because that's, to me, that's got to be does he tell his loved ones? Does he share it with his friends and family? Because, I'm sure he gets grilled. And I wonder how much in tune he is with the TV show, because they change things around pretty significantly. All right, when we come back, Rus Wooton, Walking Dead.
You're listening to the Talking Alternative Network.
Hi, this is Rob Kay.
And I'm Callie Alpert.
And we're hosts of The Rob and Callie Show. Are you looking for a show that talks about real stuff like life, love, the pursuit of being yourself?
Then you have come to the right place, because we cover topics ranging from chivalry to gratitude to your relationship with money and everything in between.
So listen to us on The Rob and Callie Show, Tuesdays, 8 to 9 o'clock Eastern Standard Time on talkradio.nyc.
Talking Alternative Radio, 24 hours a a day.
Welcome back. Secrets of the Sire. And as I've now explained, we do this every week, 8 p.m., talkingalternative.com. Every Wednesday, we talk comics, movies, TV, not cars. We could talk sports, because I could definitely talk to you about my poor Jets and how much this has not been a season to remember for them. But maybe I'll start another show for sports and cars, which I know nothing about, and Harry Potter. I know nothing about Harry Potter. Both those things were requests tonight, cars and Harry Potter, and both were no good. All right, we were talking superhero power list. We're just waiting for Rus Wooton to come on in and talk Walking Dead. Nemesis was really the funniest thing for Wonder Woman. I got to be honest with you, I was really, really surprised about that. They gave her like a 7. Like, who is Wonder Woman's nemesis, right? Like, who? Like, men? Does she hate men? Is like, I guess, angry white men. Arg. I don't know. We'll get back into that, but we have Rus Wooton from Walking Dead. We were going to talk Walking Dead instead because, quite frankly, I can't wait. I honestly can't wait for this weekend. I want to know who bites it. So we're going to try to get Rus Wooton. No, we're going to keep Rus Wooton employed by not giving away any spoilers. Russ, you there?
Yeah, I'm here. Can you hear me?
I can absolutely hear you. You are live on talkingalternative.com. All right, so our goal tonight is to not get you fired. I don't want any spoilers, But my first question is, and we'll get into your background a little bit for all of our listeners and all of our readers. Well, I guess we don't really have readers, do we? Well, maybe we do. Is how connected are you? You work on the comic book. How connected are you to the show in terms of kind of knowing what's happening?
I'm not connected at all, really, and that's actually a good thing.
Yes.
And hang on, let me turn my phone off.
No problem.
Hang on. Okay, is this better?
Yeah, we can hear you loud and clear, so absolutely.
Okay, I just was making sure I wasn't getting any feedback.
Cool.
Yeah, I have no connection to the television show at all, which is good because I can enjoy it with the rest of the viewers. And, one of the great things about the show is even if you've read the comic religiously since the beginning, you still don't know what's going to happen on the show. So this weekend is particularly interesting for me to see what happens,
So you don't just like shoot Kirkman an email being like, so who dies this weekend?
No, I mean, I might be tempted, but no, I haven't done that.
That is probably the smartest thing ever. So great. So we can't get you fired. That's good. That's what we're trying to.
So I have no, and even if I did know, I have a pretty good vault, so I would be able to keep it a secret. I mean, I lettered the book at least weeks, if not a month or two in advance.
Yeah.
So really, depending on how it's going, I mean, I think there were some times where we were about 2 or 3 months ahead on The Walking Dead. So, there were some big spoilers. I mean, with issue 100, which is covered in this episode coming up.
Yep.
I knew it before, anyone outside of the creative team on the book. But when I was lettering it, I mean, that was a huge shock. So, and I don't want to say, I don't know if you've mentioned it, but I don't want to say what happens in the book because it may or may not happen this weekend on the show. Right.
And that's the fine line, too. I'm trying to not be spoilery either. So we won't name who gets killed in Walking Dead 100, even though it's out there and it's been out there for a long time. People can read it at any point. But you know what? We'll keep it, we'll keep it spoiler free as much as possible. All right. So anybody who doesn't know, you letter the comic book Walking Dead, and you actually letter other books as well, too, in the comic book industry. How, it's such an overlooked but one of the most important functions of a comic book. So how did you actually get into the business of lettering?
I kind of fell into it because, I mean, as you know, we used to work at Wizard back in the day, and I was the web designer there. I went to school for art. I went to art school and have a degree in fine arts and another degree in art education, but I went into art, freelance design, specifically web design, back in 95 or so. I was still in college and taught myself how to do web design. long story short is I ended up working at Wizard. Buddy Scalera hired me there. He was the online editor at the time.
Yep.
And I met Chris Eliopoulos through him. And Chris Eliopoulos, as you know, is...
he's the letterer. He's like
he's
the
a letterer extraordinaire. He's one of the first guys, other than Richard Starkings. I mean, Richard Starkings started is the pioneer of the digital lettering. And then Chris Eliopoulos was right there on his heels because those guys realized that that's where it was moving, and they started doing it, all the lettering by hand on the boards, the artboards. And anyway, so Chris has been lettering comics since the early 90s because he started out interning at Marvel and learned how to letter because he was doing lettering corrections.
Yeah.
So anyway, I met Chris through Buddy while I was working at Wizard because we did a couple of articles with him.
Sure.
I think we did an interview with him for the website, and we also did collaborated with him on a couple of Wizard School things. And Wizard School was a kind of a how-to, tips and tricks for people who wanted to get into comics.
Yep.
And mostly artists, but it was also did some writing stuff. So, and Chris actually did cartooning for that, for our Wizard School, for our little logo there. But anyway, when I left Wizard in 2001, I went to go freelance, do freelance design and stuff. And then sometime in 2002, Chris called me up and wanted to know if I wanted to help him out with some lettering stuff.
Oh, so you just kind of fell into it then.
Yeah.
I mean, literally.
That's way back. And basically he taught me how to letter as I was basically his assistant for a while, and then he ended up getting a contract with Marvel to do a boatload of their books, and we ended up taking me and 3 other guys on as part of virtual calligraphy.
Wow. Now, how did you end up getting hooked up with Robert Kirkman?
Well, that's and kind of goes back to the Buddy Scalera days too, because I actually met Tony Moore online back in the early I want to say maybe 95, 94, maybe even before that, but on America Online, if anybody remembers that. And they had a wizard board on there, and Buddy was the editor at the time. And we just had a small group of guys. We called ourselves Cafe DNA. We would come up with our projects every couple of weeks or so. It's like, hey, let's all draw a picture of Madman and upload it to the Wizard Library and see how many downloads we get. See who gets the most downloads.
Sure.
That kind of thing. And so that developed into kind of we were doing Cafe DNA even into 2000 and 2001, a little part of Wizard School and WizardWorld.com. But we were basically just amateurs, and Tony was in college at the time. I was finishing up college. So I knew Tony going way back then, and then when I was working at Wizard, I think it was 2000. No, it was in 1999. I think it was the 1999 convention, Wizard World Chicago. And I finally got to meet Tony in person, and he was there with Robert, and they had a booth set up for their self-publishing venture called Funkotron. Battle Pope. I don't know if you remember that book.
No, I do not.
You got to find it. If you can find it, Image actually reprinted it in color. It was black and white at the first.
Wow.
It's a really it's a great book. But this was back, like I said, 1999, 2000. They were doing Battle Pope. So I got to meet Robert there. I think that's when he met Eric Larson in convention. And anyway, so then we kept in touch while I was at Wizard, and then after I left, and he kind of kept tabs on my lettering career, and then around, 2005, somewhere around there, he called me up because he wanted to know if I would take over lettering duties on Invincible.
Oh, wow.
And also eventually on The Walking Dead, because he was trying to get these books out much quicker to try to build the audience.
Sure.
And both books at the time, I think, had some low numbers, and he wanted to try to get them up so they didn't get canceled. So then I took over lettering on The Walking Dead with issue 20.
So actually, that actually is a great segue into my next question, though. Was when did you know that Walking Dead was a hit and you'd have steady work for the rest of your career?
That's a good question. I probably, I would have to say it was a couple years into it, maybe. When we realized that it became a hit in comics, long before the TV show.
Right, exactly. It was huge.
Attempts at TV adaptations. I think NBC was interested at one point. And this was back in like 2006 or 7 or something.
Mm-hmm.
But I probably around 2007, 2008, I realized that this not only was The Walking Dead really just going gangbusters in comics, it started to really pick up and
Yeah.
it had tons of readers. And not only that, but I was getting other independent work through word of mouth, either through Robert himself or through other guys. Tony was doing a book with Rick Remender called Fear Agent, and they asked me to come and letter that book. And so I lettered that entire series, which is a hell of a lot of fun.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's how I got hooked up with Rick Remender, who I letter several books for now. And so I've been kind of working with him for like 10 years or more as well. And then also I got hooked up with Joe Casey way back in the day. Not long after I started working with Robert on The Walking Dead. And so that parlayed into me taking over lettering duties on Godland, which was an Image book. And then, somewhere around, a couple years after I started lettering The Walking Dead was when I realized. And then in 2011, my independent work outside of the Marvel stuff with virtual calligraphy was taking off, and I realized, I could probably just do this all on my own and break away from Chris and virtual calligraphy. And then I was only lettering 3 books at that time for virtual calligraphy anyway. And so I thought, I could give these books to the other guys who could use a couple of books at the time.
Yeah.
And then, I'll pick up a couple other independent books and I'll be good.
Well, it's funny, actually, a couple things you mentioned, too. One was the NBC interest in Walking Dead, and I'm sure you've heard the story, but Robert Kirkman had a meeting with executives at NBC, and they're like, we love it. We love everything about this. Does it have to be zombies?
Yeah.
Actually, it's the entire show. Well, yeah, I guess we could do The Walking Dead about zombies, not about zombies, yeah.
That's right. And I guess they wanted something like just a post-apocalyptic thing?
I don't know. Well, I have a lot of friends who are kind of entrenched in the Hollywood cycle of pitching and stuff like that. So when I heard that story, I'm like, yeah, that sounds pretty typical.
Well, have you heard the story about how he got Image to publish The Walking Dead?
No, I don't know that story. Please.
The quick story is, and you can find a video of Robert Kirkman telling this story a lot better, and also and Eric Stevenson as well. They do a better job, I'm sure. But the thing was that Robert was already publishing Invincible. He had done Tech Jacket with them, and he also done, I think he had done a Super Patriot miniseries as well. Mm-hmm. And so he brought up with The Walking Dead, and they were like, I'm not sure. At the time, who was publisher? My mind has gone blank right now. Wasn't Eric Stevenson?
It was Larson. No, it was Eric Larson at the time. Was it Valentino?
Valentino, that's right. That was towards the end of Valentino's run as publisher. So Valentino, he wasn't sure. He's like, I don't know. I'm just not into the zombie thing. Right? And so we need a hook besides just zombies. So Robert told them, it's not, I'm glad you brought that up because it is zombies, but the thing is the zombies are here because it's the precursor to an alien invasion. What they've done is the aliens have seeded the earth with some sort of virus to sort of wipe out humanity so they can come and take over. And so they're like, that's pretty cool. I think, let's go with that. That's kind of a nice twist, And so I guess they were several issues in, and I don't remember how many. I want to say like 7, but it might not have been that many. But anyway, it was pretty good into the run. They were already, had established a story, and I guess Eric Stevenson talked to Robert and called him up and said, Robert, I'm really loving The Walking Dead. What you guys are doing is great. But I don't see anything. You said you're going to be dropping these Easter eggs with the alien invasion and stuff in here. I'm just not seeing them. Well, what am I missing? And I guess Robert started laughing and said, there's no alien invasion. I just said that so you guys would pick it up.
That's fun. Do you know Ryan Bodenheim at all?
No, the name really. Oh man,
he does. He drew Red Mask from Mars for Image, and he also he does some Valiant covers and stuff like that. And he, one time I was like having him workshop one of my pitches for one of my comics, and he's like, just say anything you want, just get it picked up. At that point, you can do whatever you want.
Yeah. Yeah, well, it's right. I mean, it's true to a degree, especially if you're selling. I mean, I think The Walking Dead didn't start out with big numbers. That's why the first few issues are worth a shitload of money on eBay.
Yeah.
But they quickly. Well, I don't know about quickly, but at some point they became a pretty solid. It was a pretty solid story. And then there was a point. I'm not sure when. I want to say probably around the time Michonne was introduced in 19, or maybe shortly thereafter.
Mm-hmm.
But when they just started, the numbers just kept going up every month. So that's when. That was a big thing. So I think that's when.
So without naming names. And tying it into the season premiere coming up. When you first got the script for Walking Dead 100, you kind of mentioned it a little while ago.
Yeah.
You said your jaw just dropped when they killed blah 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 blah.
Right, because some of the books that I letter, well, not so much now. Like when I was doing some Marvel stuff, I would letter. Often I would letter books out of order because I didn't really. Some of the books it wasn't something I was going to read. Right.
Yeah.
Like I remember I lettered a series called 15 Love. That was aimed at teenage, prepubescent girls. It was kind of a manga title about
What do you mean that's not in your wheelhouse? Come on.
Right? So that was like, I have no idea what happened in that book because I was lettering it all out of order. But with stuff like The Walking Dead and most of the books I letter now, pretty much all the books I letter now, I tend to letter it either I read through the script ahead of time, or I read it as I letter the book. And with The Walking Dead 100, I read it as I was lettering, because I knew there was going to be something big happening in 100. I just had because he'd already done something big with issue 50, I think, maybe with issue 75. But 100, that was a big mark for indie books.
Sure.
With Image, so I knew something big was going to happen, and then you had Negan, and I was like, oh, what is going to happen with this? So when it happens, when somebody gets killed. Yeah, it was gut-wrenching. I mean, it was like, because, it wasn't just a letter. I'm a fan of the book, so I was like, oh, my God, this is intense. This is gonna blow people away.
They had I read an interview, or I watched an interview with him, with Kirkman, and he was actually talking about that, because he also, the show was going on while 100 was out, while he was writing 100, and he's just like, he brought it to the writer's room at the show, and he's like, I'm writing the script for 100, and, we got a major character who's going to get killed, and they're all like, oh, who is it? And he's like, well, I don't want to tell you, because then you're going to,
Yeah.
And they're like, no, tell us. And he's like, okay, it's blah, blah, blah. And they're like, no, not Dicko, not blah, blah, blah.
Well, especially at the time in the book, this character was one that's a beloved character. I mean, even in the show as well, but I think it was he or she was more of, what would you say, this character was more of a focal point, I think, in the book at the time than this character is in the show, which is another reason I'm not sure if they're going to kill off this character or not.
Well, do you think it's going to be blah 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 or who's he Watsits or
right?
Buggity bug?
I mean, I have some ideas. I mean, I feel like if they kill this character that they killed in the books, it'll still be an emotional impact. But I also wonder, because another thing's happened with, I think Robert mentioned in an interview once that, or maybe somebody else had just mentioned it, just in a review or something. But with the introduction of for the TV show with Daryl,
yes,
right? Daryl ends up certain characters in the book. Daryl sort of takes that place, so sort of like Rick's right-hand man, right? So during the show, I think there were certain characters who got killed who might not have gotten killed if Daryl hadn't been there.
Right.
It wasn't, and for people who don't read the comics, Daryl is not in the comics.
Right,
so
exactly.
Completely.
Do you think that they would have the balls to kill off Daryl on the show?
Oh, man, I don't know. I used to say no. I mean, I would have said, up until just recently, I would have said no. I still don't think they will. I don't think it's because of balls, because I actually think they have the balls to kill off anybody. I think if you look at the book, obviously Robert doesn't have as much control over the show as he does the book, because he's in the writer's room. But,
of course.
He's not the showrunner, right?
Right.
So, and I don't know all the dynamics of that, but I know that AMC has a say, and so I don't think it's about balls. I think they would kill just anyone. I think if it would help the story, they would do it.
The Big Dog Inc. actually just chimed in on Periscope. It's Daryl. Trust me. You know what? If they did
my money wouldn't be on Daryl, and there's a couple of reasons. Like I said, again, for anybody listening, I have no idea what goes on the show. And
so, do not fire him from his job of lettering the book.
I've never seen the show. Well, they shoot the show in Atlanta, but I don't know. I don't know. So, but my gut says it's not Daryl. There's a couple reasons why. One person said, "Well, he does this new show. You know, he's got this new show with AMC where he rides motorcycle around, does this and this. So maybe he doesn't have Walking Dead." I'm like, "Well, yeah, but that show runs. You know, he shoots that show." He started shooting that show after The Walking Dead. You know, it wasn't like it would be shooting concurrently, right? And then there's another thing. I saw Daryl or Norman Reedus on what was he on the other day? I want to say Seth Meyers.
Okay,
it might have been. Yeah, I think it was Seth Meyers because I think it was the night before Chris Eliopoulos was on Seth Meyers.
No, okay.
And if you didn't catch that, you should check that out.
I had no idea he was on that. That's great.
Yeah, it's a lot of fun. So let's see. So anyway, Norman Reedus mentioned that he had recently opened up a restaurant in Georgia, near Atlanta. And so I'm thinking, I don't know. I feel like he's got some roots there, but who knows? He might have opened up the restaurant, and and the showrunner said, "Hey, by the way, we're killing your character."
They might have been like, "You should think about other employment ventures." All right, well, Russ, we're going to have you back on first thing next week because we're going to talk about that particular scene with gobbledygook and blah and who's he Watsits, and we're going to figure out. But in the meantime, people can go to my Twitter page at Michael_Dolce, and you can vote. I got it pinned to the top. We have a Walking Dead poll. Who do you think gets killed? Russ, I'm looking forward to talking to you next week, and I'm looking forward to this weekend.
Yeah, me too. I think a lot of people are.
All right. Thank you so much for joining us. We'll catch you next week as well.
Okay.
All right. That was Rus Wooton. He's the letterer on the Walking Dead comic. We've talked about so much, and we're like running into the last segment. So when we come back, we're going to try to squeeze in some spinning the racks. We got a couple of news. We got some Star Wars news. We got some Guardians of the Galaxy news, and we've got one of the best honest trailers you'll ever see.
You're listening to the Talking Alternative Network.
Are you into comics, movies, and pop culture at large? What about music and TV? Then you're in for a treat. This is Michael Dolce, your host on TalkingAlternative.com. I've been professionally writing comic books, screenplays, and music articles for almost 15 years. Catch my show, Secrets of the Sire, at its new primetime slot, Wednesdays, 8 p.m. Eastern Time, and get the inside scoop on the pop culture universe you love to talk about. For more info, go to secretsofthesire.com.
TalkingAlternative.com.
Welcome back to Secrets of the Sire. We do this every Wednesday night, 8 p.m. Eastern, talkingalternative.com. I want to thank Rus Wooton for joining us. He will be my first back-to-back guest. But theoretically speaking, we could have back-to-back guests on every week. You could simply call in, 877-480-4120, and we'll chat. We'll definitely talk about all the topics of the day. You can become a sponsor. Go to the Patreon page. Go to michaeldolce.com. It'll take you to the Patreon page. That's MICHAEL.DOLCE.com. And it'll take you to the Patreon page. And for $10 a month, we'll give you 15 seconds to do whatever you want. And you got a Kickstarter to push. We'll push it for you. We'll basically be your best friend. And that's essentially what Patreon is we will be your best friend for money. I got Rob K filling in for Sam Leibowitz behind it, and he was just talking about Russ and the art of lettering. I mean, going back to 20 years ago, it was all pre-computers. I mean, people used to literally just like paste word balloons on top of, or they would draw it directly on the page, and the artist had to really make sure that they weren't, that they were leaving enough space. So there's a whole art form to it. At some point, come to me and talk to me at conventions. I'll be at a convention next month. It's New Jersey Comic Expo, November, I believe it's 18th and 19th, down in Edison, New Jersey. So come check it out. And we appreciate everybody who has kind of followed my work. I got a new short story coming out for Zenescope. It's Grimm's Fairy Tales Holiday, or Tales of Terror Holiday Edition. I'll get all the details of it. It'll be coming out in December as well, too. I want to thank all the Periscope people who chimed in and who are joining us. Again, we do this every week, talking comics, movies, TV, live on talkingalternative.com. This gets turned into a podcast. We're on iTunes. It's the last plugging, I swear to God. We're on iTunes. Just search Secrets of the Sire. Secrets of the Sire. Search my name, Michael Dolce, on iTunes, and you'll get this in there. All right. We do this every week. We go spinning the racks, talking about the latest and greatest comic book news. Actually, we won't say comic book, the latest pop culture news. We're a pop culture show. We talk about it all. So, all right, J.J. Abrams took to the extended, some foreign extended edition. He has some exclusive commentary, and he talks about that fateful scene. And look, we've been very spoiler-free, but at this point, if you haven't seen The Force Awakens, I can't help you. I mean, it's been out for almost a year. So the fateful scene where Han Solo bites it, which was gut-wrenching and terrible. And people always ask Abrams if the youngster was playing with his father's emotions, meaning Kylo Ren, and planned to murder him the whole time. But J.J. Abrams kind of reveals, he says, Kylo Ren in this moment is actually being convinced to walk away from this. So there is that scene. So whether or not, and that is a question, was he suckering him in the entire time? Was he genuinely, mixed with what he was going to do? And JJ said, yes, he was mixed is what he was going to do. And we'll be interested to see what happens in the next installment of the movie. J.J. Abrams also added, obviously, anytime two characters in Star Wars go on an incredibly thin bridge 10 miles above the ground with no railings, it's not going to end well for one of them. So that was stating the obvious. We had one of the best honest trailers out there. Actually, we'll go with two trailers. Guardians of the Galaxy 2 trailer. I guess the teaser trailer. It's not the real trailer. Because I was going to say, it really doesn't really show much of anything. It's got Drax, and it's got Chris Pratt's character hugging at one point. It's got Chris Pratt's character, though, also having the mask on a bunch, which actually is kind of cool now that you think about it. There's a scene, too. It looks almost like directly out of Empire Strikes Back, where he's kind of like, he's got the mask and he kind of just goes up, and it just reminded me so much of like scenes where they're going in and out of the Millennium Falcon. Probably not intentional, probably just my own, inner brain kind of looking at that. And then we had an honest trailer for Ghostbusters 2016. Ghostbusters 2016 gets an honest trailer. For those who've never seen these online, they're amazing. Basically, Screen Junkies takes movies and they do an honest trailer where they basically review the movie, but they do it in trailer format, and they have the guy whose voice is amazing doing it in trailer format, and he basically is like, how did this become the most political movie in an election year? The Big Dog Inc. just chimed in, best honest trailer ever. It really was, and they're very honest, like extremely honest. They hit every single point of why this was bad, and go see the Batman v Superman one. That one, I definitely give that one a thumbs up as well too. All right, we were talking about the superhero power list today. If you missed it early on in the first two segments, Wonder Woman was ranked number 1 by Entertainment Weekly. Entertainment Weekly has a specific agenda. I'm not saying this in a bad way. I'm just saying in an obvious way. Look, if you're into if you're into right-wing conservatism, you read Fox News. If you're into, a more socially liberal, agenda, you read Entertainment Weekly. That's what they're doing. That's what they're pushing. I don't fault them. I actually like it. It's one of my favorite magazines. I enjoy it. But you know that they're pushing an agenda of some kind. Now, they're also trying to spur conversation. Wonder Woman was ranked number 1. I highly disagree with that as number 1, even based on their own criteria. Just because a lot of the criteria is subjective, so when it becomes subjective, then all of a sudden it's influenced by hey, we want to get people talking. Look, I get it. If they made Superman #1, if they made Batman #1, they made Spider-Man #1, we wouldn't be talking about it on the show right now. So they also have an agenda. They need to sell magazines. They need, and magazines is a dying, art form in and of itself. So I get it. It's not something that I don't get. It's not something that, and like I said, I really highly enjoy the magazine. I think they do a great job with all this stuff. But really what it had me missing was, and Rus Wooton was our guest, I had met Rus while working at Wizard, there's a void out there. There's a void out there for really doing features about comic books. Champion Magazine was an app that tried to do that, and unfortunately I don't believe it's still around anymore. In fact, I know it's not still around anymore. Maybe there's going to be, I know there's like a dozen blogs. There's like dozen blogs. There's like thousands of blogs out there that I'm sure are filling the void, but it's nothing like having that issue, that magazine. And for our younger listeners and younger viewers, I'm sure they don't even know what I'm talking about. Like, what's a magazine? But being a subscriber to Wizard was amazing. Every month, having a magazine delivered to your doorstep that just was completely about the comic book world, completely about the characters that we now all love. And one day we're going to have Buddy Scalera, who was also mentioned. We're going to have him, we're going to have him on the show at some point as well too, because he's got some great Wizard stories. At some point he's going to do a book about Wizard magazine, and for anybody who was on the inside, like I was, I worked there for 4 years myself, met a lot of great people. It was it was one of the best jobs I ever had, and it was also one of the best jobs because not only was the content and material so great, but the people were great too. All right, I want to know what you guys think, so please hit me up on the Facebook page, facebook.com/Secrets of the Sire. You can go to secretsofthesire.com. You can comment on any of the blogs, and I'll read your comments on air. Go to my Twitter account, twitter.com/Michael_. That's not the dash, but the underscore, Dolce. We have a poll up there right now. Which Walking Dead character bites the dust this Sunday? We discussed that with Rus Wooton, so you can catch us on iTunes, catch this podcast on iTunes on Friday. And then we're going to have Rus back on next week. Rus works on the Walking Dead comic, so I am just as excited as he is now because he has no idea who's going to bite the dust either. And we give you a couple choices. We got 3 days left of the poll. We're going to run the poll right up till 8 o'clock Sunday night. So next week, we talk Walking Dead, we talk Who Bites the Dust, and then we're going to rank our top 10 most powerful pop culture deaths. See you next week.
You're listening to the Talking Alternative Network.